For your reading paper, you have 75 minutes to answer, and I have students who complained that the 75 minutes is not enough. Okay, so when you sit for the paper, please time yourself so that you do not go overboard, and that might cause you to not have enough time to answer all the other parts. Okay, I don't want that to happen. I want you to be able to answer all of the questions well after you have read and understood the text for each part. Okay, tak naklah tiba-tiba tak cukup masa kena hentam. Tak nak. We don't want that to happen. Okay, so please time yourself well. For your reading paper, there are going to be 7 parts with 40 questions. Okay, you have 7 parts with 40 questions, and the maximum mark is 90 marks, and the weightage, like I said earlier, it is going to be 25% out of your entire 100% for your MUET pen. Okay, alright. The trickiest part is basically part 5, whereby you need to match 6 sentences to the missing gap in the text. This one, in my opinion, is the most difficult. I am going to show you later. Okay, so if you look at all of this, there are 7 parts. Okay, and sama macam listening paper, it goes from the easiest to the hardest. Okay, so part 1 ni okay lah, paling senang. Part 7 is the most difficult. Part 6 and 7 are difficult because the texts are long and complex. Okay, and they require a lot of time for you to actually read, understand, and identify the information needed for you to answer the questions. Okay, alright. I'm going to show you what part 5 looks like so that you will get the idea as to what I meant it being the most difficult part. I don't want to scare you lah. Okay, tak naklah takutkan macam ni paling susah. Tapi according to my experience, I find part 5 to be the most complex. Okay. Okay, so this is what the text is going to be. Okay, these are the type of text you are going to be tested on. So you have a mix of academic and non-academic text. You have advertisements, you have magazine article, you have text taken from a textbook, you have journal articles. So you have different types of text that are tested in the reading paper. Okay, that is why MUET band is actually considered as a standard to see where you stand in terms of your proficiency. Okay, because when you enter university, you are going to be reading a mix of academic and non-academic texts, even though you will be focusing more on academic texts. Okay, but it's going to be a mix of both. Okay, alright, so these are the type of text. First one will be short, simple texts. And then part 2 and 3, they will be straightforward, factual texts. And then part 4, you will have 2 thematically linked texts. Okay, so part 4, you are going to be reading two reading materials. Okay, they are somewhat linked to each other. Okay, and then for the first text, you will be answering 2 questions. For the second text, you will be answering another 2 questions. And based on the 2 reading materials, you will be answering another 2 questions. Okay, so basically for part 4, you will not only be reading for specific information, you will also be needed to analyze. You will also be asked to analyze and identify the information that is the same in both of the reading materials in part 4. Okay, nanti I will show you an example of question, And I will also send you a copy of this reading papers so that you will be able to practice without having to buy a book. Tapi kalau nak beli buku pun, it's up to you lah. Okay? And last one, part 5 will be a long and complex text. Usually the text is going to be either magazine articles, reviews or research bulletins. Okay? And last one, part 6 and part 7 are lengthy and complex texts. Okay? This is why I said part 6 and part 7 are the most difficult, because the texts in part 6 and 7 are the longest. Okay? And that is why you need to time yourself really, really well. Don't spend too much time on part 1 to part 4. Okay? To the point that you don't have enough time to actually answer part 5, 6 and 7. These are the most critical because they are long, okay? They are lengthy texts and they are more complex than part 1 to part 4. Okay? Now I am going to show you the example of question, okay, a question sample. Okay, ini dia. So this is part 1. Okay, so basically based on this description here, you have to match with the question. Contoh macam ni, which hotel allows me to stay safely if I am worried about the pandemic? So you have to read lah the description. Mana yang you think actually says that, oh, if I were to stay here, it's going to be safe. I don't have to be worried about the pandemic. Which one is it? Okay. This one is quite straightforward. Okay. And then you have an article. So this one is quite short. And then you, based on this article, you have to answer all of these questions. Okay. There are 5 of them. Wait, 5. 1, 2, yes, 5 questions. And then part 3, similar. Okay, you have another text. Okay, this one is quite scientific. It's about stem cells, but that does not mean that you will have difficulty understanding. Okay, because even though it is scientific, even though it has a lot of jargons, scientific terms, but it is still an easy text, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion lah. Tak tahu lah, nanti you try and answer and see how it goes. Okay. Alright, and then you have part 4. Okay, this is the part where I mentioned you will have 2 thematically linked texts. Okay, so the text, both of them, they have similar themes. Okay, they have similar themes, and based on this, you have to answer the questions. Okay, so these are the questions. Alright, so you have 2 questions for the first text, another 2 for the second text, and then you have another 2 based on the first and the second text. Okay, and then part 5, this is the part, this is the one that I said is quite difficult in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion, because basically from this, what you need to do is you need to identify as to what the blank is. And the blank is not filled with one word or short phrases. No, it is a complete sentence. Okay, it is a complete sentence. You have to fill in the blank with a complete sentence, and that is why I said this is quite complicated. It is quite complex. Okay, basically, in order for you to answer this part, what I would suggest to all of my students is, number 1, read the entire text first. Okay, read the entire text first. Try to make sense as to what the entire text is about. Okay, what do you think it is about based on the first round of reading? Okay, the second part of reading, try to match the answer here okay, with the question, with the blanks, and see whether the sentences actually make sense if you were to put them in their respective blanks. Okay, kalau nak tahu sama ada the sentence actually belongs in the blank or not, read the sentence before the blank and the sentence after the blank. Okay, that's what you do. Like for example, this one. Okay, let's give this a try. For almost a generation, psychologists around the world have been engaged in a spirited debate over a question that most of us would consider to have been settled years ago. Okay, so basically it is going to be a debate. And if you look at the question, it talks about innate talent. Innate talent means a talent that you are born with. Some people, they are born with the ability to draw. Some people, they are born with the ability to exercise without having to sweat so much or without having to put effort so much. Benda-benda macam tu lah. Okay. And then there is a blank. The obvious answer is yes. Okay. So the context that you have before is it talks about a spirited debate about innate talent. And then the next clue is obvious answer is yes. So basically the clue that you have here is the phrase may be a question about innate talent. Okay, the question might be about innate talent. So look at the list. Okay, which one of this statement looks like it is about a question on innate talent?
D.
Very good, D. The question is this: is there such a thing as innate ability? So you put D here lah. Okay, and then once you have put the answer here, reread the entire paragraph to see whether or not the answer actually belong in that paragraph. If the answer makes sense, and if the answer when it is tied together with the entire context, it still makes sense, that means your answer is correct. Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blanks. There are 6 blanks, but you have 7 choices. Okay, there will be one statement that is not necessary to be used as one of the answers, and this is why you need to really understand and choose the correct answers for each of the blanks. Okay, so this is part 5, and then you have part 6. Okay, quite long. Alright, and then you have questions. Okay, and then last one is part 7, and you have 7 questions, another 7 questions. Okay, so that is all for your reading paper. Okay, do you have any question?